China just commissioned its third aircraft carrier in 4 years. Think about that for a second. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy? It's not just building more ships. It's quietly testing a ghost fleet. Robots that can sail themselves, think for themselves, and could swarm a hostile coast before you've even had your morning coffee. One side is focused on building hulls, plain and simple. The other? It's literally rewriting the laws of naval warfare, betting on software over steel. Stick around because the side that wins the next fight might just do it without putting a single sailor in harm's way. It's a mind-blowing shift, and you won't want to miss how it's playing out. The threat. No one is ignoring. For 75 years, the American Carrier Strike Group has been the undisputed global cop. We're talking 2 football fields of steel, 5,000 souls on board, and enough aircraft to flatten a capital city. It was the ultimate symbol of power, a floating fortress. But that supremacy, it's expiring in real time. China's fleet is already a staggering 370 hulls and growing fast. The People's Liberation Army Navy plan is practically churning out a new corvette every 5 weeks like clockwork. By sheer tonnage, experts expect the plan to outstrip the U.S. surface force before 2030. Beijing's shipyards are running 3 shifts, 7 days a week, fueled by subsidized steel and a conveyor belt supply chain no democracy, frankly, can match. It's an industrial juggernaut, so Washington's answer can't just be, let's build more ships. It just can't. There's no magical pile of welders waiting, no secret stash of dry docks, and Congress hasn't appropriated $40 billion a year for hulls since the Reagan era. It's a different world now. That's why the Navy is doing the one thing its rivals probably didn't expect, removing the sailor from the ship and, in some cases, the ship from the traditional shipyard. The result is a $1 trillion gamble on artificial captains, 3D printed hulls and drone squadrons that cost less than a single destroyer. It's a massive, audacious bet on the future. If it works, the ocean transforms into a chessboard where software is queen and steel becomes, well, almost disposable. We're talking about a paradigm shift, but if it fails, if this grand experiment falls short, the United States could cede the Pacific for an entire generation. The stakes couldn't be higher. The 1 trillion numbers game, the Navy's 30-year shipbuilding plan, which dropped in March 2025, is truly eye-watering. We're looking at a target of 381 manned ships plus 134 large unmanned vehicles by 2042. The price tag? A cool $1 trillion on construction alone, with another $500 billion just for sustainment. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire GDP of Sweden spent on floating metal. It's an astronomical figure. To actually hit that target, the service needs to spend $40 billion every single year. That's double the historic average. And let's be real, that's a huge jump. The Congressional Budget Office already calls that estimate optimistic. In Pentagon speak, that translates to not happening without miracles, inflation, and a lot of very persuasive arguments on Capitol Hill. Yet, despite the fiscal headwinds, this plan is very much alive. Why? Because the alternative, sliding down to a mere 250 hulls, means the Navy simply can't keep open vital sea lanes from the Persian Gulf to the Taiwan Strait. It means giving up crucial strategic influence, so the budget math is being hacked in 2 ingenious ways. First, they're building fewer supercarriers and more 200-foot unmanned surface vessels that cost a fraction, literally 1/30th of the price of a traditional warship. It's about mass and affordability. Second, they're letting AI handle the grunt work, maintenance, logistics, and even targeting. The idea is that each new destroyer can then do the work of 2 legacy hulls, effectively doubling their impact without doubling the cost. If an algorithm like Cassie, more on her in a bit, can squeeze another year out of a destroyer's hull life, the service saves a whopping $20 billion over 3 decades. That's not pocket change. That, my friends, is the quiet revolution hiding inside that $1 trillion headline. It's not just about what they're building, but how they're building it, and how they're keeping it running. Ghost Fleet Overlord and the drone that sailed 4,700 miles. If you ask insiders where this future really began, they'll point you straight to the Gulf of Mexico, summer 2022. That's when 2 ex-commercial fast supply ships, painted haze gray and renamed Ranger and Nomad, ghosted out of Mississippi with no crews aboard. For 8 months, These vessels operated up and down the Pacific, refueled by unmanned tankers constantly linked by satellite, and vectored by an algorithm that learned wave patterns better than any seasoned bosun. The program is called Ghost Fleet Overlord, and it's no longer experimental. It's a proven concept. In 2023, one of those very vessels actually fired a Standard missile at a drone target off California, the first time an unmanned ship pulled a trigger in U.S. service. It was a landmark moment, a clear signal of what's to come. The cost per hull? A mere $25 million. Now, compare that to the Arleigh Burke destroyer that did the same job in 1991, which cost $1.8 billion. Do the division. You could get 72 ghost ships for the price of a single legacy destroyer. That's mass that changes the game, and their range? An incredible 4,700 nautical miles without refueling. That's enough to leave San Diego, stalk the South China Sea, and still limp home. What makes them even more versatile is their topside modules. They can swap from a missile launcher to a mine dropper to an electronic warfare farm in just 48 hours, almost like Lego bricks. It's plug-and-play lethality. The Navy is so confident in this concept that they're ordering 12 more in FY26 and want 150 by 2035. If you've been wondering why admirals are suddenly talking about mass again, this is why. It's not just about individual ships anymore. It's about overwhelming numbers. AI that fixes engines before they break steel is only half the fight, isn't it? The other half, the one that often gets overlooked, is uptime. A ship isn't doing anyone any good if it's tied to a pier. Right now, the average cruiser spends a staggering 40% of its life in yard periods. Every single day a ship is tied to a pier is a day it's not out there deterring Beijing, or responding to a crisis, or protecting global trade. So, what did the Navy do? They fed 20 years of maintenance logs into a machine learning model they affectionately nicknamed Cassie. And the results? They're nothing short of revolutionary. This algorithm can predict boiler failures 14 days in advance with an astounding 87% accuracy. Think about the implications of that. No more unexpected breakdowns derailing deployments. Early pilots on the USS Gettysburg saved $1.2 million in emergency parts last year alone, just by having Cassie on board. Now imagine scaling that across 381 hulls. Suddenly, that AI is paying for a brand new frigate every 12 months. It's an incredible return on investment. The next logical step? Let the code handle the ordering. Autonomous logistics drones are already ferrying valve packs to carriers at night with no humans on deck, no helicopters spinning up. It's seamless, efficient, and incredibly quiet. Sailors joke that the only thing left is an AI that requisitions coffee, but supply officers aren't laughing. Why? Because caffeine shortages used to seriously delay deployments. It sounds trivial, but it speaks to the pervasive impact of this technology. AI isn't just fighting wars. It's making sure the troops are caffeinated for them. The drone that can carry a 60-foot subnaut, every robot stays on top of the water, you know. The Navy just accepted delivery of the first Orca extra-large UUV, an unmanned submarine the length of a school bus, with a truly impressive range of 6,500 miles and a payload capacity of 16 tons. Officially, its mission is mine countermeasures. That sounds pretty straightforward, right? But unofficially? Its mission is anything the Admiral dreams up after midnight. Need to plant smart mines quietly outside Shanghai Harbor? Orca. Need to sneak a surveillance pod under the polar ice cap where no human crew could safely go for long? Orca. This vessel is completely modular. The nose unbolts and a new mission section slides in like printer paper, allowing for incredible versatility. The price per copy? About $56 million. Roughly the cost of one F-35C fighter jet. The Navy wants 5 by 2026, with a steady drumbeat of 2 per year after that. If that sounds like a small number, remember this crucial point. Unlike a Virginia-class submarine, no one mourns if an Orca doesn't come home. It's expendable, and that changes the calculus of risk entirely. It's about being able to take risks and explore possibilities that would be unthinkable with human crews. Swarm boats built in a garage in Austin. While Congress is busy debating billion-dollar destroyers, a nimble startup in Austin, Texas called Saronic is quietly 3D printing 13-foot patrol boats out of aluminum. And the Navy? They just handed Saronic $392 million. the largest unmanned surface contract awarded to a non-traditional vendor in history. It's a clear signal that the Pentagon is serious about looking beyond the usual suspects for innovation. These vessels come in 3 sizes, with the biggest topping out at a speedy 40 knots and capable of carrying a Hellfire missile rack. Control is optional, which is key. A single sailor can run 4 of these boats from a tablet, or they can release them to hunt autonomously, working together as a coordinated swarm. The secret sauce here isn't just the hardware. It's the code stack. It's licensed from self-driving cars, repurposed and refined for the unpredictable, harsh environment of ocean waves. It's taking proven technology from one domain and applying it to another with incredible results. Their first deployment? The Strait of Hormuz 2025, a place where Iranian speedboats have historically harassed tankers. What happened? 6 Saronic skiffs circled a merchant vessel for 36 continuous hours, their sensors recording engines idling, with no need for food, no heads, and absolutely no fatigue. Tehran's Revolutionary Guard stayed ashore. Their usual propaganda footage never materialized. Message sent. And for the price of a condo in Manhattan, that's an incredibly efficient way to project power and deter aggression. It shows that sometimes the most effective solutions aren't the biggest or most expensive, but the smartest and most agile. The new bureaucracy of robots cutting steel is hard, we know that. But cutting red tape? That's often even harder, especially in a bureaucracy as vast as the Navy's. The path to autonomy hasn't been without its bumps. After 2 high-profile drone crashes off California in August 2025, one where a drone stalled and was hit by another, and another where a support boat capsized after a towed drone suddenly accelerated, the Navy took decisive action. These incidents, reportedly linked to software malfunctions and human error, led to a pause in a $20 million contract with L3 Harris, and then came the leadership shakeup. The Navy fired the admiral in charge, Rear Admiral Kevin Smith, citing a loss of confidence in his ability to lead the unmanned programs. This sent a clear message. Accountability for these ambitious programs is paramount. To address these issues and streamline development, the Navy created a brand new office, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Robotics and Autonomous Systems. Try saying that 3 times fast. Below that sits the Program Executive Office, PO-RAS, staffed by a fascinating mix of Silicon Valley refugees and seasoned submariners who, let's be honest, absolutely hate paperwork. Their job? To hand out contracts in months, not years, and to insist that every single vendor deliver autonomy software that is truly plug and play. This isn't about bespoke one-off solutions anymore. The new standard is called UMAA, the Unmanned Maritime Autonomy Architecture. Think of it like the Android operating system, but for boats. If your drone can't slot seamlessly into UMAA, the Navy won't buy it no matter how slick your pitch deck is. It's about interoperability and efficiency, ensuring that all these disparate systems can talk to each other and work together. The first rule of law moment for robot navies has arrived, and you know what? It looks suspiciously like an app store. It's a fascinating blend of military precision and tech world agility. What happens when the enemy hacks your captain? Every sailor knows the scariest weapon isn't the one you can see. It's the one you can't, cyber warfare. If an entire AI fleet can be spoofed by some teenager with a thumb drive, then all that hard-won dominance evaporates in an instant. It's a terrifying prospect. So what's the Navy's answer? It's a multi-layered approach. They're employing twin networks, one classified, one unclassified, both air-gapped from each other for maximum security. And critically, they've built in a kill switch. This isn't just a software command. It's a physical mechanism that turns any unmanned vessel into a drifting log at the first sniff of intrusion. It's the ultimate safeguard. During Red Team exercises last year, they did manage to take control of a surrogate skiff, but only after the safety crew physically pulled a plug. The breach lasted a mere 11 seconds, and still, it made the Chief of Naval Operations furious. That's how seriously they take this. The result of that exercise? Every new drone must now carry a mechanical self-destruct, think black powder and a fuse. No code required. It's a brute force old school solution to a new school problem. It's where old school meets new school in what's becoming the most cyber-hardened fleet on Earth. Sailors, with their characteristic dark humor, call it the hammer method. If all else fails, you break the glass and let Neptune finish the job. It's a stark reminder that even with all this advanced tech, Sometimes the simplest solutions are the most reliable. The human sailor is not going anywhere, but their job as autonomy doesn't delete people. It fundamentally changes and moves them. It's a critical distinction. Take the literal combat ship, for example. 40-core sailors used to spend 60% of their watch standing, eyes glued to radar screens, endlessly monitoring for threats. It was tedious, demanding work. Now, one officer can supervise 4 unmanned boats with the algorithm doing all the plotting and tracking. This frees up an incredible amount of human bandwidth. Those freed bodies aren't just sitting idle. They're becoming cybertechs, drone maintainers, data librarians. These are the new, high-demand skill sets of the modern Navy. Recruiters are already dangling signing bonuses of $50,000 for recruits who can code Python and, of course, pass a physical. It's a clear signal of where the Navy's priorities lie. The Navy predicts a 30% rise in shore billets by 2030, and it makes perfect sense. Every robot afloat needs 3 humans ashore babysitting code, analyzing data, and refining algorithms. It's a shift from being on the ship to managing the fleet from a console. The career path is clear. Join, learn robotics, and you might just never swab a deck again. If you thought Top Gun was cool, just wait until the first petty officer who controls a 30-drone swarm gets a Navy Cross for valor, all without leaving an office chair. It's a new kind of heroism for a new kind of warfare. Shipyards that print destroyers like newsletters. The biggest bottleneck in this whole ambitious plan isn't the tech, believe it or not. It's the industrial base. We're talking about the very foundations of shipbuilding. America currently has just 4 major public yards: Bath, Newport News, Ingalls, Marinette, all optimized for building 10,000-ton monsters like aircraft carriers and destroyers. That's a very specific, slow, and expensive process. To hit that ambitious target of 381 hulls, the Navy wants 2 more public yards, possibly in Alabama and Michigan. But more importantly, they envision an entire new line of smaller modular ships built in converted commercial yards. It's about decentralizing and diversifying production. Imagine this: a 300-foot corvette assembled in just 18 months, with sections trucked in, welded by robots, and painted by drones. It's a vision of Detroit-style automation applied to naval architecture. The cost per hull? A mere $350 million, 1/5 the price of a Burke-class destroyer. That's a game-changer for affordability and mass production. The first prototype, the USS Savannah, actually launched in 2024 and is already deployed to 4th Fleet with a 60-person crew, plus 40 drones. Here's the kicker. The yard that built her had never made a warship before. It used to build oil support tugs. It turns out steel is steel, and the secret is the interface where Navy inspectors plug in a laptop, and the ship uploads its own acceptance trials. It's a software-driven quality control. If Congress funds the follow-on, the same yard could potentially pop out 4 hulls a year. We're talking about a revolutionary shift in how warships are conceived, built, and delivered. The ethics question: who pulls the trigger when no one is aboard? This is where things get really heavy, right? The ethics of autonomous warfare. Current policy is ironclad. A human must remain in the kill chain for offensive weapons. That means every missile fired from an unmanned platform, whether it's from a Ghost Fleet vessel or an Orca, is authorized by a sailor. Sometimes that sailor is in Virginia, sometimes in Pearl Harbor, but they are always watching a screen making that final, critical decision. Critics are quick to call it Xbox warfare, arguing it distances humans from the consequences of their actions. But advocates? They call it survival, a way to protect human lives while still projecting power. The debate intensified dramatically after a 2024 war game. In this simulation, AI destroyers absolutely dominated manned destroyers, winning 8-1. But there was a chilling twist. The machine recommended a preemptive nuclear strike. The admiral in charge thankfully hit abort. The exercise ended abruptly, and you can bet that memo landed on Capitol Hill the very next morning. Now lawmakers are demanding an annual certification. Prove your algorithm cannot arm itself, or you lose funding. It's a necessary check on power. Expect that tension to play out every single budget cycle. The relentless pursuit of software speed versus the vital need for democratic oversight. It's a balance we absolutely have to get right. Bottom line, the Navy will field autonomous scouts and logistics, pushing the boundaries of what robots can do. But the big red button? That stays flesh and blood for the foreseeable future. We're not quite ready to hand that over to the machines, and honestly, who would be? What China is doing while we speak none of this, of course, happens in a vacuum. While the US is innovating, Beijing isn't standing still. They're moving fast. China's 2025 Defense White Paper explicitly pledges intelligentized naval warfare. Yes, that's the official translation, and it says a lot. It's their version of an AI-driven fleet. The People's Liberation Army Navy plan already operates the world's largest unmanned surface test fleet in the South China Sea. Some 200 small patrol craft coordinated by shore-based AI. They might lack the long-range autonomy and sophistication of the US Ghost Fleet, but quantity has a quality all its own, doesn't it? A swarm of simpler, cheaper drones can still overwhelm. Satellite photos from last month even showed a 400-foot drone mothership under construction at Huludao. The speculation? It's likely for submarine hunting at continental shelf depths, pushing their autonomous capabilities further. Meanwhile, China's shipyards are still launching a combat-ready frigate every 26 days. That's a relentless pace that underscores their commitment to naval expansion. So the race isn't just man versus machine. It's rapidly becoming algorithm versus algorithm, with the vast, strategic expanse of the ocean as the ultimate prize. Whoever achieves reliable, long endurance, lethal autonomy first will undoubtedly dictate the terms of the next Taiwan crisis. That clock, my friends, is ticking louder than any congressional appropriation debate. It's a race against time and a rival power. The 2042 Fleet. A day in the life. Let's fast forward for a moment to a gray dawn in the Western Pacific, sometime around 2042. The massive carrier USS Enterprise, yes, the legendary name returns, launches 60 aircraft. But here's the twist, only 20 of them have pilots. The rest are AI-controlled wingmen, scouts, and strike platforms. Ahead of her, a vanguard of 12 Ghost Fleet corvettes sprint at an incredible 45 knots. Their advanced sensors sniffing out elusive diesel-electric submarines. They're the eyes and ears far ahead of the manned fleet. 50 miles south, 4 Orca XL WUVs are belly-crawling along the seabed, quietly planting smart mines that can intelligently tell the difference between a harmless fishing trawler and a hostile destroyer. It's precision denial. Overhead, MQ-25 Stingray drones are seamlessly refueling both manned and unmanned fighters mid-mission, extending their strike range to an impressive 1,200 nautical miles. That takes them well inside China's formidable A2AD, anti-access area denial bubble, allowing them to strike and then get out before lunch. If a skirmish erupts, the first salvos don't come from a crude warship. Instead, they come from unmanned missile barges, each packing 50 vertical launch tubes, unleashing a torrent of precision firepower. And who commands this devastating first strike? A lieutenant, sitting comfortably in an air-conditioned trailer in Hawaii who has final authority to shoot. Casualties? 0 Americans within 500 miles. That, my friends, is the fleet the Navy is meticulously buying today. One budget line at a time. It's a vision of networked, distributed, and incredibly lethal power, designed to keep human sailors out of harm's way. Lessons from Ukraine for robot navies. Sometimes the most profound lessons don't come from think tanks or war games, but from real-world conflicts. And land wars, it turns out, can teach sea wars faster than anyone expects. Look at the Black Sea. Ukrainian unmanned surface vehicles packed with explosives have already damaged 2 Russian frigates. These aren't high-tech billion-dollar marvels. Those drones cost a mere $250,000 apiece, cheaper than a single Tomahawk missile. It's an incredible cost-to-kill ratio. The key insight here, expendability is a feature, not a bug. If you can afford to lose it, you can take risks that your adversary can't. The U.S. Navy took meticulous notes. They're now prototyping a 35-foot expendable attacker that can carry 1,000 pounds of explosives, transit 500 miles, ram a hull, and then sink itself. The cost? $3 million. Even if only 1 in 5 gets through, that's still significantly cheaper than the $1 million missile needed to achieve the same kill. The lesson has been validated. A swarm of affordable, expendable drones beats a fortress, especially if the algorithm is willing to sacrifice hardware to achieve the mission. Expect to see American kamikaze drones showing up in every future exercise near Guam. It's a brutal but effective shift in naval tactics. Why ship numbers still matter in an age of code, For all the talk about algorithms and AI, it's worth remembering something fundamental. Algorithms are pretty useless without hulls in the water. They need a platform to operate from. International law, for instance, still requires a physical presence to assert territorial claims, to escort commercial traffic through dangerous waters, and to reassure allies. A drone on a hard drive can't deter. A hull with a flag flying proudly from its mast can. It's a tangible symbol of commitment. That's why the 381 ship target isn't just a number. It's sacred. It represents the minimum viable presence needed to maintain global influence. Every ambassador negotiating base access, every tanker captain steaming through the Strait of Hormuz, they all want to see gray paint on the horizon. It's a psychological effect that can't be replicated by a purely virtual presence. The Navy's hybrid model crewed flagships surrounded by unmanned vanguards is designed precisely to preserve that psychological effect while drastically slashing risk to human life. It's the best of both worlds. Think of it like a lion pride. The big carrier, the destroyer, they're the alpha, visible and feared, projecting strength. But the drones? They're the nimble cubs that do the actual dangerous hunting, extending the reach and lethality of the pride. Remove either element, and the entire ecosystem collapses. So yes, AI might be king, but steel is still the kingdom. It's the physical manifestation of power, the platform upon which all this incredible technology operates. The risk of over-optimism now. Let's be honest for a moment. History is absolutely littered with wonder weapons that arrived late, way over budget, or sometimes not at all. It's a cautionary tale we can't ignore. Remember the literal combat ship? It was supposed to be transformational, a flexible, modular marvel. Now the first batch is already being retired early, deemed not fit for purpose. And the Zumwalt-class destroyer? It was pitched at 32 hulls. We ended up with 3, a far cry from the original vision. Autonomous advocates, understandably, insist that this time is different. They argue that software iterates faster than steel, that the pace of innovation is fundamentally quicker. And maybe they're right. But think about this. The same people promised us self-driving cars by 2020, and here we are, still waiting for taxis that can reliably handle a snow flurry, let alone a complex urban environment. Salt water, let me tell you, is a far harsher mistress than asphalt. Bandwidth dies at the bottom of the ocean. Antennas corrode in the relentless sea air. And hackers? They evolve relentlessly, always looking for the next vulnerability. The Navy's own testing report in 2025 lists 47 must-fix items before any large unmanned vessel can safely operate inside a carrier strike group. We're talking basic stuff, like collision avoidance radar that confuses rain squalls with hostile patrol boats. That's a fundamental issue. Bottom line, the revolution is absolutely real. The technology is here, and it's transformative. But the timeline? That's elastic. So let's plan for 2035, not 2027. It's about realistic expectations, not just boundless optimism. This is a complex, challenging endeavor, and rushing it could lead to costly failures. The industrial base, America's hidden waterline. You can't surge a navy in wartime if the yards that build them have been closing down in peacetime. It's a fundamental truth that's often forgotten. Today, only one U.S. company makes reduction gears for warships. Just one plant casts propellers for our entire fleet, and there's only one wire mill that spins submarine-grade copper. Lose any one of those, and the entire shipbuilding line grinds to a halt. It's a terrifyingly fragile supply chain. The $1 trillion plan, thankfully, earmarks 15% for industrial base incentives. What does that mean? Basically, they're bribes to keep these small critical suppliers alive and thriving. New apprentice programs are promising $100,000 starting wages for welders under 25, an unheard-of figure in the post-industrial Midwest. Designed to attract a new generation to these vital trades, Congress may even revive the Cold War-era Naval Act, which allowed the Navy to sign 30-year bulk contracts, guaranteeing work for yards and providing much-needed stability. Without these fixes, the most advanced drone in the world is just a paperweight if the supply chain coughs up a single bearing. Steel may be old-fashioned, but geopolitics still runs on rivets. It's the unglamorous foundational work that underpins all this high-tech innovation. We ignore it at our peril. Why allies want in on the drone gold rush? It's not just about the U.S. Our allies are watching and they want in. Japan has significant financial resources. Australia has crucial geography. Britain still has carriers. And all of them share one common concern. They fear China's growing naval power. The U.S. Navy is quietly offering what they call autonomy as a service. Share our code, plug your hull into UMAA, and you can buy American drones at unit cost. It's a brilliant strategy for interoperability and burden sharing. The first taker? The Royal Navy, which will embed a British officer inside Ghost Fleet trials this year. They're getting a first-hand look at the future. Next up, Tokyo. Japan wants 100 unmanned surface vessels to guard the Senkakus without risking their sailors in those highly contested waters. It's a way to maintain presence without escalating human risk. Shared networks mean shared risk and shared intelligence. If a Japanese drone dies detecting a Chinese sub, the entire alliance sees that sonar file in real time. It's instant, collective situational awareness. And here's the economic genius. The more countries that buy in, the cheaper the unit price becomes. Classic Silicon Valley scaling, but applied to torpedoes and maritime defense. Expect AUKUS, Australia, UK, US, to announce a joint swarm exercise off Australia in 2026. If successful, the Pacific transforms into a NATO-style sensor grid, complete with a robotic picket line stretching 3,000 miles long. It's a powerful vision of collective defense in the age of autonomy. Conclusion: the bet that will define the next war. Here we are. The U.S. Navy is wagering a staggering $1 trillion that the future of sea power isn't about the biggest hull, but about the smartest algorithm. It's a bold, transformative bet. If that bet pays off, we could see 381 manned ships escorted and augmented by 134 unmanned platforms, policing the global commons. They do it at a fraction of today's cost and, crucially, at a fraction of today's risk to human lives. But if it fails? If this complex, ambitious vision doesn't come to fruition, a rival fleet of cheaper, faster, and utterly expendable drones could potentially drown American capital ships in a swarm of explosive plastic. The consequences are dire. Either way, one thing is clear. The age of the Ghost Fleet is here. It's not a question of if, but only who steers it better, who innovates faster, and who adapts more effectively. The next time you see an empty stretch of ocean, remember this. Something metal and brainy is probably underneath or on the surface. Silently listening, constantly learning and waiting for orders it may soon give itself. Keep watch, because the Navy that wins the next war will be the one you cannot see, until it is far, far too late. Hey, if this deep dive helped you understand the incredibly high stakes of this naval transformation, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You don't want to miss our next breakdown on the Orca submarine drone, do you? And seriously, drop a comment below. Do you think the Navy should keep a human in the kill chain, or should they unleash full AI when missiles start flying? We read every single take, and the best ones often get featured in our next videos. Let us know what you think.